معرفة.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Now let us discuss about the Wakala model. In the Wakala model, these are the participants. The participants enter into a contractual arrangement with the Takaful fund and the Takaful operator. This contractual arrangement is based on the principle of Wakala, meaning agency, right? So Takaful operator is appointed as an agent of the participants to do two activities. One is to manage the contributions, and Takaful operator is appointed as an agent, and as an agent it has two responsibilities. Of course, the first responsibility is to manage the Takaful policies, contribution and maintaining record and settlement of the claims, and the second is to invest a portion of the Takaful fund in Sharia compliant businesses. Now this investment is done in the nature of an agent. Now what we see here is, again, the Takaful operator divides the Takaful fund into two portions, into two accounts. One is the PSA and the other is PA. PSA, what we are trying to say when we say PSA is that this is called as a participant special account, and from this account the claims of the participants are addressed. So if there are any claims, okay, the liquidity of the funds available in the PSA is used to pay for those claims. The second account, which is what we are calling as a participants account, is used to make investment in Sharia compliant businesses, right? So even in this model, okay, what happens is that even in this model, what happens is that in the PSA, the total donation minus the claims minus operation expenses, whatever is remained at the end of the Takaful term, that goes to the surplus. That goes to the surplus. From the PA, which is the participants account, which is used to make Sharia compliant businesses, now in the participants account, when it is used to make investments in Sharia compliant businesses, so here the total investment plus the profit minus the operation expenses, whatever is remained, goes into the surplus. Now this surplus, in a way, what we see is that is shared with the participants, right? Now this is what happens, and the Takaful operator, because it is appointed as an agent, gets a fixed fee irrespective of performance of the Takaful, meaning to say that if there is a loss in the investment, that doesn't reflect in the payment of the fee to the Takaful operator. Because the Takaful operator is acting as an agent, a fixed fee needs to be paid to the paid to the Takaful operator. So this is in brief how the Wakala model of the Takaful works. Now let us discuss about the hybrid model. In the hybrid model, basically if more than one structure is used to structure a Takaful fund. So for example, if there is a Wakala contract and there's also a Mudaraba contract, so the investment is done on the Mudaraba basis, but the other operations are done on a Wakala basis. If that is the arrangement between the participants, Takaful fund and the Takaful operator, then it would be called as a hybrid model. So here, as an example, we have taken a combination of Wakala principle and the Mudaraba principle. The other features remain the same as we have discussed for the other models, meaning to say that the Takaful operator would divide the Takaful fund into two parts, and one part would be used to address the claims made by the participants, and the other part would be used to make investments in Sharia compliant businesses, and then the return is passed back to the participants. Of course, the same concept is again used in case of the PSA, which is basically the participant special account. The net reserves in the PSA will be the total donation minus claims minus operation expenses. So whatever is remaining would be called as a net reserves, and that goes into the pool, the surplus pool. Then in case of the PA, which is participants account, which is what it creates is the net realization, that is the total investment plus the profit minus the operation expenses. So whatever is remain goes again back into the surplus pool. And because here the investment part is done in the nature of Mudharaba, so that profit is shared with the participants, for example here. This profit is shared with the participants. So this is in brief how a hybrid model would work. Now let us look at this structure. This is basically a Waqf model. In the Waqf model, the participants, okay, contribute their participation amount into the Takaful fund. Now this principle which is used to create the relationship between the participants, Takaful fund and the Takaful operator, this principle is the principle of Waqf. So the Takaful operator here again divides the Takaful fund into two parts. One is used to address the claims made by the participants. One is used to address the claims made by the participants, and the other is used to invest in Sharia compliant businesses. One important point which we need to understand is that the Takaful operator, of course, gets a fixed fee, and at the same time, the surplus which gets created from two sources. One is from the PSA, meaning to say that the total donation minus claims minus the operation expenses, and here for example the net realization, which is the total investment plus profit minus the operation expenses. So whatever is remain goes into the surplus. But this surplus, unlike in the other models which we have seen that surplus would be shared by the participants, but in the Waqf model this surplus will be invested back in the Takaful fund. Meaning to say, because it's a Waqf model, the profit or the surplus is again invested back into the fund. So this is the main distinguishing feature of a Waqf model, and this is the main distinguishing feature, and this is the main distinguishing feature in the Waqf model. Now let us here discuss about reinsurance. Okay, so what is the Islamic version of reinsurance? So the Islamic version of reinsurance is re-Takaful. So meaning to say that if there are Takaful companies who would want to insure themselves, then what are the opportunities available? So what we see is that a similar mechanism, okay, so what we see is that these are Takaful companies, for example. These Takaful companies could go and insure themselves, okay, with a re-Takaful operator, okay. Now this is a re-Takaful operator. Now basically the arrangement is more or less similar, wherein this could be, for example, I am using a Wakala principle here. So based on the Wakala principle, the Takaful company contributes its contribution into the re-Takaful fund, and then this re-Takaful operator invests that fund, okay, in a Sharia compliant businesses on this side, and then keeps them in an account to address the claims made by the Takaful companies. So the process goes on a similar way, wherein for example the total donations minus claims minus the operation expenses, right, will go here into the surplus, and then here the total investment plus the profit minus the operation, whatever is remaining goes to the surplus, and then this surplus in the end, okay, what we see is that is shared with the Takaful companies. So currently there are a few re-Takaful companies which provide the Takaful services to Takaful companies. So this is in brief how it is done. The pattern is similar It's just that the customer or the participants here become the Takaful companies and not individuals. So in such cases, okay, the Takaful structure is structured, and currently there are some Takaful companies which are providing such service.